Welcome all. I'm Dr. Vijay Patil from KK Wag Engineering Institute. In this video, I'll be covering basics of internal combustion engines. The objective of this video is to understand the components and the working of IC engines. In this video, I'll also cover some theoretical cycles like Otto cycle and diesel cycle, which are used for analysis of petrol and diesel engines. So once this knowledge is acquired, one can easily check the performance of petrol and diesel engines. Now let me firstly classify the engines. There are two types of engines. One is the external combustion engine and second one is the internal combustion engine. In external combustion engine, fuel is burnt outside the engine system where the power is produced. So once fuel is burnt, the working substance gets that heat, absorbs that heat, like steam in case of boiler. In boiler, the heat is given to the steam and then steam is utilized in a steam turbine to generate power. Similarly, in case of gas turbines, the hot gases which are produced, they are obtained outside the gas turbine, and then in the gas turbine we get the power. So these are the external combustion engines. In internal combustion engine, fuel is burnt inside the engine cylinder itself, and there itself the power is generated. So that is the basic difference between internal combustion engine and external combustion engine. So let me concentrate on internal combustion engines. Now I will classify the internal combustion engines. The first one is based on number of strokes. So you can actually divide engine in two types based on number of strokes. One is the two-stroke engine and second one is the four-stroke engine. In case of two-stroke engine, the cycle is completed in the two strokes of the piston. One stroke means it is the movement of piston between the top dead center and the bottom dead center. So in any one direction, when the piston moves from top dead center to bottom dead center or from bottom to top dead center, it completes one stroke. So in two such strokes, if the cycle is completed, then we say that it is a two-stroke engine. But if engine utilizes four individual strokes, then that is categorized as the four-stroke engine. Then based on number of cylinders, you can have a single cylinder engine or a multi-cylinder engine where the number of cylinders are more than two. So single cylinder engine is generally used in the applications where power requirement is low, like in case of two-wheelers, and multi-cylinder engines, they are used in the applications where you require more power, like in four-wheelers, trucks, they use the multi-cylinder engine. Then you can use you can categorize this engines based on the fuel which is used as petrol engine or diesel engine. Petrol is also called as a gasoline. You can also use CNG, LPG in petrol engines. So these are the two categories based on the fuel which is used. Then you can have a thermodynamic cycle as a Otto cycle or diesel cycle. So Otto cycle is used in case of petrol engines and diesel cycle in case of diesel engines. Similarly, you can have different arrangements of cylinders. One is inline arrangement, in which you have the cylinders which are arranged one by one in a single line. So that is called as an inline arrangement, which is shown in this figure. You can also have V type of arrangement, in which there are two lines of cylinders which are arranged in V shape, and they have a common crankshaft. So the power obtained is received at the common crankshaft. Here the V arrangement will reduce the size of the engine. Similarly, you can also have a radial engine, in which the cylinders are arranged radially outwards with a common crankshaft. You can also have opposed piston engine, in which the two pistons, they are moving towards each other and they have a common combustion chamber. In this case, you have two different crankshafts which are then geared together and the output is obtained at the end. Based on ignition system, you can categorize engines as spark ignition engines. They are also called as SI engines. And second category is the compression ignition engines. Now, in case of spark ignition engines, we use petrol or CNG or LPG as a fuel. These fuels, they have high self ignition temperature, so there is a requirement of spark in order to initiate combustion of mixture of fuel and air. In case of compression ignition, the self ignition temperature of the fuel is lower as compared to petrol or CNG. So diesel is used as a fuel in CI engines. And one more thing is we are using higher compression ratio in case of compression ignition engines as compared to SI engines. So there we don't require any spark in order to initiate combustion. Just by compression of the mixture, that is fuel and air, the temperature which is achieved, that is sufficient to burn the fuel, that is mixture of fuel and air. And in case of the engines, you can also divide them in two types as water cooled engine and air cooled engine, in which the water cooled engines they are used in heavy applications, like there is a coolant which is supplied through the engine jacket. The coolant is mixture of water and glycol, so that will actually give better cooling as compared to second type, which is air cooled engines, which are used in bikes. So in air cooled engines, we have fins which are provided over the cylinder, and these fins will actually lead to cooling of the engine. Now let me go through the engine components and nomenclature which is used in engines. So first thing is, we know that in case of internal combustion engine, mainly the reciprocating type of engine, we have a piston and cylinder arrangement. So piston reciprocates in the cylinder. So when it reciprocates from top dead center to bottom dead center, or from bottom dead center to top dead center, it completes one stroke. Now you see here the piston when it is moving in the cylinder, it also consists of this piston rings. So when we are talking about piston and cylinder arrangement, the contact is between the piston rings and the cylinder, and not between the piston and the cylinder. So that we should know. So just to reduce the friction, we are actually using these rings which are in contact with the cylinder. So during the reciprocation from top dead center to bottom dead center, or from bottom dead center to top dead center, this reciprocating motion is then converted to rotary motion by an arrangement which is provided in this crank mechanism. So crank mechanism, it uses the principle of eccentricity in order to convert this reciprocating motion into rotary motion. Other components include the pins which are connecting the connecting rod with the piston, that is called as a gudgeon pin. Then the pin which is connecting rod with the crank, that is called as the crank pin. Then you also have the valves. These valves are actually used for induction and during the exhaust. So they will open when there is induction of mixture of fuel and air or air, and the exhaust valve will open when there is when we want to throw the exhaust gases out of the cylinder. At the center you have either spark plug in case of SI engine or fuel injector in case of CI engine. The spark plug is utilized for providing spark in order to burn the mixture, and fuel injector is used for injecting fuel at the end of the compression stroke. Other thing which we should know is the volumes, the terminologies which are used related to volume. One is the clearance volume. So the volume which is above top dead center is the topmost position to which piston can reach, and bottom dead center is the bottommost position to which piston reaches. So in between top dead center and bottom dead center, whatever volume is swept by the piston, it is called as the swept volume, and the volume above top dead center is the clearance volume. So the total volume of the cylinder is the clearance volume plus the swept volume. So there is another term which is used in context of engine, reciprocating engine, is the compression ratio. So compression ratio is the ratio of total volume. So that is the volume before compression. So compression starts when the piston is at bottom dead center. So volume above the piston is the swept volume plus the clearance volume, which is the total volume. And at the end of the compression stroke, piston reaches the top dead center. So volume above the piston at the end of the compression stroke is the clearance volume. So volume before compression divided by volume after compression, that gives us the compression ratio. So this is important term which is used in the analysis of engines. So higher the compression ratio, higher will be the power output. But there are some limitations to the compression ratio in case of SI engines. But anyways, you can remember that the compression ratio is the total volume by the clearance volume. Then you have the cylinder wall. In case of air-cooled engines, you have fins which are provided over the cylinder walls, which are used for cooling the engine. In case of water-cooled engine, you have water jackets which are provided over the provided in the cylinder, and through this water jackets we actually allow coolant to flow in order to cool the cylinder, to keep the cylinder to the required temperature, which can give us maximum output. Now let us discuss the two-stroke engine. There are three figures which you see here. The first figure shows the movement of the piston in the upward direction. The second figure shows the movement of the piston in the downward direction, and in the third figure the piston is again now moving in the downward direction, and the cycle is about to complete. Now let us start with the first figure. Piston has started moving in the upward direction. You see that there are three ports here. Inlet port, which is present in the crankcase. So there is an opening which is provided in the crankcase, that is called as the inlet port, wherein the mixture of fuel and air is taken in to the crankcase, through this inlet port. The second port is the transport port, which is connecting the crankcase with the cylinder, and third one is the exhaust port, which is used for exhausting the gases. Now when piston starts moving in the upward direction, whatever charge, that is mixture of fuel and air, is present above the piston, it will get compressed, and when the piston reaches the top dead center, the spark is supplied, the mixture will get burned, mixture is combusted, and because of this combustion, piston is forced in the downward direction. So in the second figure you can see that piston has started moving in the downward direction. So piston is forced in the downward direction. So we get the power stroke. So this reciprocating motions is converted to rotary motion of the crankcase. About 70% of the stroke is utilized for obtaining the power. 30% of the stroke which is remaining is used for the exhaust of the gases. Now when piston is moving in the downward direction, it will partially compress the mixture of fuel and air which is present in the crankcase, and when the stroke is completed, that means the power which is 70% and 30% of the exhaust stroke when it is completed, the transfer port gets opened, and whatever charge is present in the crankcase, that is being transferred to the top of the piston, above the piston in the cylinder. So that you can see in the figure number 3. So piston has uncovered transfer port as well as exhaust port. So and the charge which is present in the crankcase is transferred to the cylinder above the piston. Now while transferring, the top of the piston is such that it consists of a deflector which doesn't allow fresh charge to directly go to the exhaust port, rather it directs it in the upward portion of the cylinder. This also helps in scavenging of the exhaust gases, but in spite of providing a deflector, there are chances that some of the fresh charge may also flow along with the exhaust, and that is the reason we say that two-stroke engines are more polluting as compared to four-stroke engine, and the fuel economy drops in case of two-stroke engine. Now again, when the piston starts moving in the upward direction, the inlet port, which is spring-loaded valve, which consists of a spring-loaded valve, will now open, and the mixture of fuel and air, it will be sucked in. So in this way, you see that in two strokes, that is movement of piston from bottom dead center to top dead center, and again from top dead center to bottom dead center, the cycle is completed. So here, in case of two-stroke engine, we require 2 strokes of the piston and 1 revolution of the crankshaft in order to complete this cycle. Now, in comparison with the 4-stroke engine, where you have 4 individual strokes, there you require 4 strokes of the piston and 2 revolutions of the crankshaft in order to complete the cycle. There we get only 1 power stroke. Fuel is to be injected once in 2 revolution, while in this case, in case of 2-stroke engine, since we are injecting fuel or supplying fuel and air mixture in each revolution of the crankshaft, we expect that the power obtained is doubled. But since there is a loss of fresh charge along with the exhaust, and that leads to poor fuel economy, the power which is obtained is only 30% more. So nowadays we are not using these 2-stroke engines because of the reasons that they are more polluting and the fuel economy is less. We have shifted to the 4-stroke engines. 4-stroke engines, as I told you, there are 4 individual strokes. The first one is the suction stroke, second one is the compression stroke, third one is the power stroke, and final one is the exhaust stroke. So there are 4 strokes which are separate or individual in case of 4-stroke engine. So in case of suction stroke, the mixture of fuel and air is taken in, during which you have the intake valve which opens, piston moves from top dead center to bottom dead center, and because of the vacuum which is created inside the cylinder, the mixture of fuel and air is taken in. In the compression stroke, which is the second stroke, piston moves from bottom dead center to top dead center. Whatever mixture of fuel and air is being taken in, it is being compressed, because now the both the valves, that is inlet valve as well as exhaust valve, is closed. So whatever mixture you have in the cylinder, because of the motion of piston from bottom dead center to top dead center, it gets compressed. So just before the end of the compression stroke, in case of SI engine, spark is supplied. In case of fuel injection, in case of compression ignition engines, fuel is injected. So because of that process of either providing a spark or injecting a fuel, the combustion occurs inside the cylinder. At just before the end of the compression stroke, we supply the spark or inject the fuel, and when piston reaches the top dead center, because of the combustion, it is forced in the downward direction. So that force is very high, and that results in movement of piston from top dead center to bottom dead center at high speed. The reciprocating motion of this piston is converted to rotary motion and we get power output at the crank. So this is called as a power stroke. Now when we get the power stroke, obviously there is continuous reduction in the pressure when piston is at the top dead center and when combustion is obtained. There the pressure is very high, and when piston reaches at the bottom dead center, the pressure is about 2 to 3 bar above atmosphere. So the final stroke is the exhaust stroke. So there the exhaust valve is opened, piston moves from bottom dead center to top dead center, and whatever burnt gases are present which are being utilized for generation of power, they are thrown out of the engine. So that is the exhaust stroke which we have as the final stroke in the cycle. So there are individual strokes, intake stroke or the suction stroke, wherein we take air fuel mixture into the engine in case of SI engine, or air alone in case of compression ignition engines. That mixture is being compressed in the compression stroke. At the end of the compression stroke, spark is supplied or fuel is injected. We get combustion. Because of the combustion, the piston is again forced to move in the downward direction from top dead center to bottom dead center. That gives us power. And the final stroke is the exhaust stroke, in which the exhaust gases are thrown out. Now here, since we have individual strokes, there is very less possibility of the fresh charge going along with the exhaust, and that is the reason why we say that the 4-stroke engines are more efficient as compared to 2-stroke engines. In case of 2-stroke engines, as I told you earlier, that there are chances that some fresh charge may move along with the exhaust and pollute the environment, but that is very less in case of 4-stroke engines. So 4-stroke engines, they are more efficient and less polluting, and that is the reason why we use this 4-stroke engines nowadays. Now we may say that 4-stroke engine may give us more variation in the power output as compared to 2-stroke engine, because in 2-stroke engine, in each revolution you get power stroke, but in case of 4-stroke engine, in 2 revolutions once there is a power stroke, so there are chances of fluctuations. But providing proper balancing units using multi-cylinder engines has reduced the fluctuations in the power output, and that is the reason why we use 4-stroke engines nowadays. Now let us go through the thermodynamic cycles which are used in case of petrol engines and diesel engines. The first one is the Otto cycle, which was invented by Nicholas Otto in 1862. Now these are the cycles which are used in analysis of the engines. Now there are various assumptions which were which we need to consider while analyzing these cycles. So these cycles, they consist of four processes. The first process from 1 to 2 is the isentropic compression process, then 2 to 3 is the heat addition process, 3 to 4 is the expansion process, where we also call this as a power process, and final one is the heat rejection process. Now here you will see that there is no intake stroke and there is no exhaust. We are assuming that air is used as a substance which is present in the engine, and the heat exchange across the wall, it occurs through the source and the sink. The source is used for supplying the heat to the system, and sink is used for taking or heat rejection out of the system. So you can see that there are only 4 processes, and this 4 processes doesn't consist of intake and the exhaust process. So this is an closed cycle which we have. It is also a reversible cycle. So all the processes which are here, in this cycle, they are the reversible process. So 1 to 2, as I told you, it is a isentropic compression, during which the air which is present inside the cylinder is being compressed adiabatically, right. So there is no exchange of heat from system to the surrounding or from surrounding to the system. Then the second process 2 to 3 is the heat addition process, in which the source is brought in contact with the cylinder head. So instantaneously heat is being added, which will raise the pressure and temperature of the air which is present inside the cylinder. Because of increase in pressure and temperature of the substance or the air which is present inside the cylinder, there is sudden expansion, and this process is instantaneous, right. 2 to 3 process, that is the heat addition process, is instantaneous. So there is sudden rise in pressure and temperature which will result in expansion, and that process is 3 to 4. So this is also a adiabatic isentropic process, reversible adiabatic process, during which work is obtained as the output. So piston moves from the top dead center to bottom dead center, and whatever heat is remaining in this air, that is being rejected to the sink. So sink is again brought in contact with the cylinder, and the heat is rejected. So these are the 4 processes which you see in this cycle, Otto cycle. We can analyze this cycle. So there is an important parameter which we will calculate, and that is the efficiency. So efficiency in any work producing device is given as work of output or work done divided by heat supplied. Now if you see this cycle, there are 4 processes. 1 to 2 is the compression process, 2 to 3 is the heat addition process, 3 to 4 is the work output or expansion process, and 4 to 1 is the heat rejection process. So work done in this case will be the total heat which is supplied minus heat rejected. So that heat which remains is the heat which is converted to work, right, equivalent to work. So heat supplied minus heat rejected will give us the work done, divided by heat supplied gives us the efficiency. Now what is heat supplied? Now in this case heat is supplied in process 2-3. So 2-3 process is instantaneous process, so volume remains constant. So heat which is added during this process can be given by the expression mCv into delta T. So delta T is T3 minus T2. Similarly, heat rejected is also at constant volume at bottom dead center, when the piston is at bottom dead center, and it is equal to mCv into delta T, and delta T in this case is T4 minus T1. So heat supplied minus heat rejected divided by heat supplied, that gives us efficiency. So if I simplify this expression, mCv will get cancelled, you can take it common and it gets cancelled. So you are left with the expression for efficiency in terms of temperatures. So I have further simplified it as 1 minus T1 is taken common from the numerator and T2 is taken common from the denominator. So I have in the bracket T4 by T1 minus 1 and divided by T2 in bracket T3 by T2 minus 1. So this is an expression after simplification. Now what I'll do is I'll get this temperatures in terms of known quantities. So we have compression ratio. Compression ratio is the ratio of volumes before compression and after compression. So V1, it is the volume which is before the compression, and V2 is the volume which is at the end of the compression. So V1 divided by V2, that gives us compression ratio. And since all the gas laws are applicable here in this cycle, you can actually have this relation between the temperature and volume, which is T2 by T1, that is equal to V1 by V2 raised to gamma minus 1, and V1 by V2 as I told you is the compression ratio. So T2 in terms of T1 can be written as T2 equal to T1 into R raised to gamma minus 1. So what we are doing now is we are trying to get the relations between the temperatures, so that finally I'll remove this temperature term and I will get an expression which is in the known parameters, which is in terms of known parameters. So similarly, you can see that T4 by T3, right? The process 1 to 2 is the isentropic process, which is reversible adiabatic process. So there you can apply this expression. Similarly, process 3-4 is also the expansion process, which is reversibly adiabatic process. So there also you can apply this law, and there you can write T4 by T3 as V3 by V4 raised to gamma minus 1, or you can also write T3 by T4 as V4 by V3, right, just reciprocal of this one, raised to gamma minus 1. But V4 is same as V1 and V3 is same as V2. So if I substitute that, V4 by V3 can be written as V1 by V2. So T3 by T4 comes out to be V1 by V2, which is R raised to gamma minus 1. So you see that T3 by T4, which is equal to R raised to gamma minus 1, is same as T2 by T1, which is also R raised to gamma minus 1. So you can write T3 by T4 equal to T2 by T1, or when you rearrange this term, it will become T3 by T2 equal to T4 by T1. Now the expression for efficiency which we have is 1 minus T1 in bracket T4 by T1 minus 1 divided by T2 in bracket T3 by T2 minus 1. So this was our earlier expression. Now since T4 by T1 is equal to T3 by T2, what you can do is I'll just substitute T4 by T1 as T3 by T2, and these two brackets gets cancelled. We have T2 by T1 as R raised to gamma minus 1. So T1 by T2 can be written as 1 upon R raised to gamma minus 1. So 1 minus T1 by T2 will give us an expression for efficiency as 1 minus 1 upon R raised to gamma minus 1. Now R is the compression ratio, which is total volume, that is the volume before the compression, which I explained you earlier, divided by the volume after compression, which is clearance volume. So that can be easily calculated if you know the dimensions of the cylinder, and gamma for air it is 1.4, right. So you can easily obtain efficiency by using this expression for an Otto cycle. So final expression which we have for the efficiency is 1 minus 1 upon R raised to gamma minus 1, which can be used for obtaining efficiency of Otto cycle. There is another term which is the mean effective pressure. Now I told you that when the combustion occurs inside the cylinder and when piston is at top dead center, the pressure is very high, and as piston moves in the downward direction in the power stroke, the pressure reduces and finally it may become 3 or 2 bar, which is quite less as compared to the pressure which is obtained when the piston is at the top. So there is continuous variation in the pressure from top dead center to bottom dead center during the movement of piston. So what we do is we calculate an average pressure, right, and that is mean effective pressure, which can give you same work output as that of the actual power stroke. So I told you that in the actual power stroke, the pressure is maximum at the when the piston is at top and minimum when the piston reaches the bottom dead center, and there is continuous variation in the pressure. But if you calculate an average pressure or mean effective pressure, the work output which is obtained using this term mean effective pressure, right, this value will be same as that of the work which is obtained when you consider the changes in pressure in actual cycle. So this is a term which is actually gives us the idea about the performance. If this value is high, then we can say that the output can be higher. So, how it is calculated? The mean effective pressure is the work done by swept volume, or work done can be calculated in terms of mean effective pressure as mean effective pressure into swept volume. So, that gives you work done. So, I will not cover the derivation part, but this is an expression which is obtained for the mean effective pressure of an Otto cycle, which is obtained by using the expression work done by swept volume. Swept volume is the volume which is swept between the top dead center and the bottom dead center. That is total volume minus the clearance volume, that gives you. Now, let us analyze second cycle, which is the diesel cycle invented by Rudolf Diesel in 1893. So, again here you see 4 processes. Unlike Otto cycle, here the heat addition process is the constant pressure process. In case of Otto cycle, it was constant volume process. So, the volume before the heat addition and after the heat addition, they are not same. So, this ratio V3 by V2, it is called as the cutoff ratio. So, there is compression from 1 to 2. This is reversible adiabatic process or isentropic compression, and 2 to 3 is the heat addition process, during which the source is brought in contact with the cylinder head and heat is being transferred from the source to the air, which is working substance in the cylinder. Then after the end of the heat addition, because of increase in pressure and temperature, the working substance expands. So, we get work output, and finally, whatever heat remains in the working substance, that is being thrown out to the sink or rejected to the sink. So, these are the 4 processes which you see on this diagram. Again, you do not have any suction and exhaust, because this is an closed system which we are considering in analysis. So, in analysis, again we can go with the same procedure, like we need to calculate the efficiency, which is work done upon heat supplied, and heat supplied in this case is mCp into delta T, because here you have this constant pressure heat addition process. So, before the heat addition, the temperature was T2. At the end of the heat addition process, temperature is raised to T3. So, delta T is T3 minus T2. So, mCp into delta T, that gives us heat supplied. Similarly, heat rejected is again at constant volume. So, this is mCv into delta T, which is mCv into T4 minus T1. So, again when you substitute this in the expression for efficiency, we get the expression as mCp delta T minus mCv into delta T, that is heat rejected, divided by mCp into delta T, that is heat supplied. So, if you rearrange these terms and simplify, finally you will get an efficiency expression as 1 minus T4 minus T1 divided by gamma, which is Cp by Cv into T3 minus T2, right. So, this is just rearranging the terms and substituting Cp by Cv as gamma. Now, what we will do is, we will consider each process separately, and we will get all the temperatures in terms of T1, right. Earlier I used some other method in order to obtain final expression, but here what I will do is, I will get this T2, T3 and T4 in terms of T1. When you substitute that, finally in the expression, T1 will get cancelled and you are remained with the known parameters or known terms. So, T2 by T1 for an adiabatic compression process, reversible adiabatic compression process, it can be written as V1 by V2 raised to gamma minus 1, which is same as R into gamma minus 1. So, T2 can be written as T1 into R raised to gamma minus 1. Similarly, for process 2, 3, we have Since this is a constant pressure process, we can write or use gas law, which is P2 V2 by T2, that is equal to P3 V3 by T3. And since P2 and P3 are same, because heat addition process 2-3 is a constant pressure process, P3 and P2 they are same. So you can write T3 in terms of T2 as T2 into V3 by V2. And we know T2 in terms of T1, so substitute that, and V3 by V2, V3 by V2 can also be written as rho, which is cutoff ratio, right. So this is an notation which is used for cutoff ratio, rho. So T3, that comes out to be T1 into R raised to gamma minus 1 into rho, which is cutoff ratio. Similarly, for process 3-4, we can write, since it is an isentropic expansion process, again using gas law, I can write T4 by T3 as V3 by V4 raised to gamma minus 1. I will divide and multiply both this V3 and V4 by V2. So if I divide numerator as well as denominator by V2, I will get V3 by V2 into V2 by V4. V4 is same as V1, so I have substituted V4 as V1, and V3 by V2 is the cutoff ratio, and V1 by V2 it is the compression ratio. So if I substitute that, I will get it as rho by R raised to gamma minus 1. So T4 by T3 comes out to be rho by R raised to gamma minus 1. So if I substitute T3 as T1 R raised to gamma minus 1 into rho in this expression and simplify, I will get T4 as T1 into rho raised to gamma. So this is a final expression which is obtained for T4. So once I get T2, T3 and T4 in terms of T1, I just substitute in the expression for efficiency. T1 will come out to be common, it gets cancelled, and finally you are remained with the expression of efficiency in terms of the known parameters like rho, gamma and R. So this is an expression which is obtained for diesel cycle. Similarly, there is another parameter which we discussed earlier, and that is mean effective pressure, which is work done upon swept volume. So you can get this expression for a diesel cycle also, and you will see in both the expressions of mean effective pressure for Otto cycle as well as diesel cycle, you have P1 in the numerator, P1 in the numerator. That means if you want to increase the mean effective pressure, if the suction pressure is higher, then the mean effective pressure can be higher, and in turn the work output can be higher. So nowadays what is done is, in order to increase this mean effective pressure, we are using supercharger or turbocharger, which will actually increase the inlet pressure P1. So once P1 is increased, the mean effective pressure is increased, and the work output or work done will be higher in that case. So for same size engine, for same swept volume, if I increase the mean effective pressure, how it can be done? By increasing P1 or by increasing compression ratio. If these things are done, then we can actually increase the work output. So in this way you can analyze the Otto cycle as well as diesel cycle. So we have discussed the components of the engines, then we discussed the working of two-stroke engine, four-stroke engine, and then the analysis of Otto cycle and diesel cycle. So this is all from this video. Thank you.